what makes a user stick? What is that one action or this combination of action that will get people to really understand the value and keep coming back in an organic way? Because if we understand that, then you can have some marketing campaigns that helps in building these habits, but we need to be super clear on that habit needs to be.
How do you build a team that can scale for hypergrowth? Welcome to Mobile Heroes Uncensored. Today we're chatting with the VP of a product for an app with 220 million global users that has helped over 30 million women get pregnant, which of course is an entirely different kind of growth. In terms of apps, growth means acquisition, sure, it also means retention, and that means you need a great product. My name is John Koetsier. Co-hosting, of course, is Peggy and Salz. Peggy, who's going to teach us how to put all these puzzle pieces together?
Well, as you said it, we have a VP of product. We actually have Aurelie Genet. She's VP of product engagement marketing. I love that. All together in one place at Flow. And Flow is the app, as you pointed out. It supports women at each stage of their reproductive cycle. Today, she leads the cross-discipline engagement marketing tribe. That's also very cool. At Flow Health. They take it seriously. It is not a group or a division. It's a tribe. And before that, she held marketing and CRM positions at Skyscanner and Trainline. She started her career in user acquisition roles, moved into retention-focused roles before diving into the world of product marketing. And that's the triangle, and that's the challenge that we want to talk about today. But of course, I also take a look at what her colleagues have to say about her. And if you look at it, John, I think we've struck gold, because here's how they describe her. Adaptable and capable of working with multiple stakeholders, but commercial and technical, always bringing a positive vibe. So we'll have a positive vibe on our show. And she's also, quote, not to be messed with.
Uh-oh.
So no way. So we are strapping ourselves in for an edgy lesson in building teams that work. Welcome, Aurelie.
Hi, thank you. That's quite an intro. Now I don't really know how to follow up with something.
Oh, that's awesome. Welcome and thank you for being with us. Before we dive into everything that you're going to talk about, this triangle, the acquisition, the retention, all the product, all that stuff, 220 million global users, that's super impressive. There's very few apps that get there. How'd you get there?
That's a very good question. So Flow really is on the mission to help women globally to live better with their health. As we know, female health is an area that has been underfunded. And so we've really tried to build something that's easy to engage with, that women could connect with and really support them throughout their entire life. And the company has been going for a few years, tremendous growth due to product moving very fast, improving very fast, and trying to keep up with the demand of our users. So a lot of work goes into that, basically.
Nice.
I like that it's leading with product, a great experience. I've taken a look at it, but you also deal with that triangle, that growth triangle. How do you get those three on the same page, fitting together the product, the acquisition, the retention?
That's a challenge that I think we work at every day. I think it has to start what I've discovered throughout my entire career was the product, like the company will be successful if the product has product market fit and users love the product. And yes, marketing helps with the discovery and helps with the engagement, but you need to have that product market fit of having something that people really want to engage with. And so that's really one of the things that we help at Flow. I've joined Flow just about a year ago, and building that engagement marketing tribe, like you mentioned, was about having product marketing coming in and supporting with these questions of product market fit, and then also having lifecycle marketing and building up the right communication so we can help users get deeper engagement with the product and helping them throughout their health journey.
So you bring them together, you build a tribe. Share some lessons, some learnings on that path of bringing together what's fairly disparate parts. You know, it's not like they have a lot, well, they do have a lot in common, but they have a lot of different ways of approaching it, the same goal.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, like you mentioned, in my my kind of career progression, really started in agency side, and it was all about drive traffic, drive downloads, and then you work towards that, and you generate all of these downloads. Were great, but who are the people behind these downloads? Are they actually engaging with the app? What's their lifetime value like? And then moving into companies like Trainline, I was in the middle of, well, you're generating all these downloads, but we're not seeing the same conversion that we do on the web. Why is that? And so starting to dive into like engagement and what users are doing inside the application. And then that's something that at Skyscanner I could see developed even further. And so for me, the eye opener was, it's not marketing, do one thing and then product, do another thing. That just doesn't work like that. It needs to be, we all work for the same consumer, the same users. And so we need to have metrics that are aligned. We need to make sure we talk to our users frequently and that we build experiences that actually, make sense for them, so we can maximize the conversion in the long run and not just strike for the short-term goals. So yeah, that's cross-discipline collaboration for me was the very big aha moment in my career.
I mean, that is the goal. It's about cross-discipline collaboration. I'm talking to a lot of marketers who aren't as far along on the path as you are. And there's things like I wouldn't say fight. They just sort of struggle to get there.
I would say fight. I've seen that.
Yeah, I would say fight too. I've been there.
I was trying to be tactful about this, but it's like, hey, I need this data and I need it customized in this way. And it's like, no, you're not going to get it. And I own the customer experience and you're not going to do this. So there is a lot of, a little tension going on. Any nightmares to share from what you have had?
Yeah, so many. I was in companies, and I don't want to name the names, where marketing, I was asked, generate downloads, generate traffic, like you have to hit X million or X thousands of people. And then product was like, well, but we have to work on the conversion rate. So you can't just drive an influx of traffic because that's just going to throw my conversion rate out of the window. And that's not right. And so you would have this fight. And so sometimes you can find the common ground with people and you can work on projects to prove that the concept work of, let's take one segment, let's do very targeted advertising, let's do a dedicated landing page, let's see what the engagement rate is throughout and the results. And sometimes you just can't because people are not willing to see past their scope and see how other companies or other discipline rather can deal with it. So it can be quite a fight.
So John, it says she's not to be messed with. Does that tell you how she settles these fights?
I don't know. Maybe those elbows are pretty sharp. We'll have to find out. But
when I was at Skyscanner, actually, I felt like I was asking very hard questions, and I felt like my engineering team that I was working with were not enjoying me because I would always be the one like, but how does that feel for the user? Imagine you're the user. Does that make sense to you? Is that good enough? And I felt like I was potentially nagging, but they actually loved that because they were ambitious people. They wanted to do great work. And so they like to be kept on their toes, or they like to be challenged in the right way. And then at the end, I could actually deliver an amazing product launch campaign, and they could see their product in the wild being loved by users. And so it was a bit of, if you give me what I need, then I can, do justice to your work and actually make it shine into the world. So yeah, that's the charming of people, the way you collaborate.
I love it, but you need some pretty mature people on the other side to make that work.
Yeah,
so I'm glad that you had that there and obviously have it where you have it right now.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about the customer experience. You've been talking in and around that. That's the focus, right? That's where somebody spends their time. That's what determines, hey, I like this, I don't like this. I feel good about this, I don't feel good about this. Talk about your app and the customer experience inside of it.
Yeah. So if you think of Flow, so Flow started off as a period tracker. That was the first sort of job to be done with the app. And we've since then evolved throughout the year into an essential health partner. So still anchoring around the menstrual cycle, because that's something our users have and that men don't have. but it's so much more than just knowing when your period is coming. Actually, your cycle influence your hormones. It will influence how you feel, how your body feel, but how your mind feel, the energy, etc. And we're not really taught any of that at school, or it's not necessarily something that you talk about within your family or with friends. Sometimes you're quite alone actually with these feelings. And so unless there is something dramatically wrong, you might not know what is normal or not normal. And so I think a big thing that we want to do is helping our users connect with their body and build that sort of confidence in and understanding of what is going on. So then they can decide to actually change some things in their routine. And actually, you know, if I have low energy on these days, that's totally normal. I shouldn't beat myself up, but I should actually just be kinder to myself and look after myself. Or it can be that, you know, some of the length of cycle doesn't look quite right. And so our users should advocate to get further tests with their doctors. And so it's about giving them that confidence to go and ask for better care for themselves. And so that's for me is the mission that really drove me to the business, is building engagement with the app, but actually to do some good in the world and help a population that is quite overlooked within the health kind of environment.
You know what I had to think of as you were speaking about that, Aurelie? Peggy and I interviewed, it's got to be a couple years ago now, a former product manager for Google's iOS app. And he had launched a new subscription service. And he said, you needed to know your customers' needs better than they know them themselves. You have to understand their pain and their challenges better than they do themselves. And that's kind of what came through a little bit as you were talking.
Totally. And I think generally how when we think about cycle, we mainly think about period, and that can be that time, you know, the phrase is even like, oh, that time of the month is something that, you know, you kind of have to deal with. But actually, if you learn to understand how it works, you can make it work for you, and you can, you know, prioritize certain work to be done on days where you know you're going to have the right focus and the right energies. And on the days that you're going to feel a bit low energy, then you can just look after yourself. And I think until you spend the time to check in with yourselves and learn your patterns, you're not really going to get there. So that's really one of the things we really try to push for at Flow, and really help our users to learn what feels right for them, learn what their patterns are, because we're all different. We will all feel different things, but it's about learning to listen to our bodies and then I think, reconnect with them a little bit more.
I like that, because we connect with our bodies, we get to understand ourselves, a community, something is building there, a deeper understanding. And you're enabling that, or even encouraging that, with content and curation. That plays a big part in your app and in the appeal of it as well, because it's a subscription-based app. And so we get some exclusive content and some other content. Tell me a little bit about content overall and why that's so important to your app.
Yeah, I think it comes back to what I was talking about. So learning to detect the signals that your body is giving you is one thing, but then understanding, is that signal normal? Is it not normal? Is it something I should worry about, or is it okay? And so it was important for us to build that sort of educational or supportive content on the site to just give some more context to our users and make sure that they were getting the support that they need, or if actually it's all fine, you can just keep going with your day and you will be fine, or actually this is something then we think seeing a doctor would be quite useful. So it's really going back to understanding our users and how do we want users to feel when they engage with the app, and crafting these little moments where, you know, you are logging because you feel something, and it's about giving you that reassurance and build a bit more of an emotional connection with the product. And we also have some long form content because we have some of our users who are looking to conceive, for example, and so they will just read everything they can. I've had friends and my sister that went through that, and actually reading half of the internet and not being sure, you know, is that okay? Is that not okay? Can I trust this piece of content? And it was really important for us to work with doctors, to work with people that could create something that was easy to digest, not too medical, but also that had that credibility and that people could really trust. And so we're on a journey with our users. If you think of we're serving people going from teenage years and the first periods and the first, sexual experiences all the way through to more mature users. And in the middle, we might have some users trying to conceive, some that are pregnant, etc. And so we need to have that sort of emotional connection with medical credibility in order to be useful throughout their entire life cycle.
I mean, content is what's going to enhance this experience. It's educational, it's helpful, it feels personal, it feels customized, as you said, the whole life cycle, the whole range of stages in a woman's life. What other types of apps could benefit from that?
I think a lot of the apps that ask you to track things, sometimes they're asking you to track because there is that sort of gamification element, but I sometimes just miss a bit of the context. It's like, well, I'm tracking this, but so what? Like, what can I do about this? Or what's the journey? And I think that's where you want to build that sort of progression. That's where, for me, content is very key. So I don't necessarily have like a specific app in mind that would benefit from this, but I think anything that asking you to progress or taking you on the journey to help. Because if you think of building confidence, I think that's a very hard concept. Like, how do you know if somebody's getting more confident? You kind of, if you're going into school or something, you can take tests. And so then you know that you know your things, but does that make you necessarily more confident? I think that's a difficult feeling to grasp. And so I think having the right content to help users through that is helpful.
An app that comes to mind actually that could benefit from that is Zero. I use that occasionally. It's a fasting app and it's just all about tracking, and it tells you how many people are fasting at any given time or something like that. But it doesn't have any of that content. And as I'm hearing you talk, I'm thinking, you know what, that might actually be interesting, because almost my only engagement with this app is time to fast.
Exactly. But then when you go through, if you think about this, when you go through fasting, you might have headaches because you didn't drink enough water, or you might feel a little bit low of energy and things like that. And maybe, giving you some reassurance on, this is totally normal, or and explaining why this is happening, I think just strengthen your commitment, I guess, to the whole journey. Yeah.
I agree.
So many app marketers are talking about content. I mean, we met Aurelie at an event where it was, even the fintech apps, I've got content. I mean, what can you actually be reading or learning about so much that it fills an entire sort of app session? So everyone's onto it. Everybody wants to curate it. Give me some lessons from your perspective, staying fresh, staying relevant, staying personal. How do you do it?
So that's not within my team. We have a team at Flow that actually looks at content, and we have that team specialized by user segments. So we really, these teams are the heroes of these specific segments. Like, what is the jobs to be done? What is their lifestyle? What do they care about? What is the biggest pain point, etc. And so I think the key here is to keep in touch with the users. I mean, for me, the first company that I was at, we had regular catch up with our users. We would run a lot of user research and interviews, and you could just, dial in and listen about how people talk about the product. What is their pain point? What do they not like? What do they like? And that helps you stay up to date with their expectations and therefore deliver something that makes sense to them. And yeah, I think that's the key bit. I was at companies as well, and I don't want to name names because I feel like it's not necessary.
It is Mobile Heroes Uncensored. So, it's uncensored.
But I feel like content sometimes can be just published because it's an SEO exercise, but then that piece of content is left there and it's no longer relevant. It's not kept up to date, and it will start to be more of a negative thing for your brand than a positive thing. So it is a big challenge, and I think we're trying to look at it most of our content is sitting within the app, and that's the content that will be personalized to the day of your cycle, the goal that you have as a user, and how you are interacting with the app. And we also have some content that live on our websites that allows us to help potential users when they are Googling for specific questions. But yeah, you're right that it is a challenge to keep that up to date and fresh, and removing the content that's no longer relevant, I think, is also a big part of that work.
What I do like about it is it's an opportunity to give something to your user, to your customer. It's not something they have to do. They don't have to enter something. They don't have to decide something. They don't have to make a purchase decision. It's just, hey, here's an experience. We're sharing it, and I can consume that. I can enjoy that. And I think that's great in a time, frankly, when we're looking for our phones to deliver those 5-minute entertainment episodes, right? Well, I'm waiting for this, or I'm in line for that, or whatever the case might be. Let's get back to teamwork. One way to drive teamwork is to get the whole team, whether it's product, acquisition, retention, to focus on the same metrics. What are the metrics that you focus on across the teams?
I was actually going through that earlier this week of building a funnel of metrics that make sense for our users to go through. I think historically what I've seen was, like I mentioned earlier, marketing, you have to drive traffic, you have to drive revenue, and product, you have to optimize that conversion rate. And I feel like actually if we can, I'm a big fan of the Reforge framework and having these aha moment, building a habit. What does that look like? And then when people fall out of that habit, what does that look like as well? And so for us, the past conversation that I've been having at Flow were around like, what makes a user stick? What is that one action or this combination of action that will get people to really understand the value and keep coming back in an organic way? Because if we understand that, then you can have some marketing campaigns that helps in building these habits, but we need to be super clear on that habit needs to be. And so what we tend to do is to focus our users on logging symptoms, for example. That's a key one for us, because if you start to listen to your body and you record this, it becomes almost like journaling of, how did I feel today? Was my energy good? Was it not good? Did I feel cramps? Did I feel headaches and things like that? And so that will not take very long. Like you were talking about micro moments earlier, that doesn't take very long, and that's something you can reproduce every day. So then the big questions become, how do we build that habit? Could we try gamification? Could we try education with content that explains how it will unlock? Do we do more of a tutorial where we show users, hey, when you log specific symptoms, we have dedicated health assistant or dedicated stories that pops up into the app that you can dive into how you feel. So there are then you can then find different solutions to address that problem. And so for me, what has been key was like anchoring the problem statements around key actions that we need users to do. And then you align the product team with engineers and a product marketing person and a lifecycle marketing person to work together to put the plan and deliver these initiatives across all the disciplines.
Thank you for saying people. I always cringe, and I do it myself all the time. I say users, and they're people, and they're defined by more than their relationship to our apps. And so I really like that.
Cute.
I have to say, what is impressing me is how everyone has a stake in this and how you are keeping those teams focused. I'd like to hear a little bit more about your personal life, right? Your personal accomplishment or challenge. What stands out for you as a marketer as the thing you're the proudest of, or that you had the hardest time achieving?
I mean, that's probably where you got some of these feedback from probably some of my old colleagues from Skyscan. Because I mean, I really loved working at that company, really great culture. And so it was the first time that I was flying out to Budapest and actually meeting a team of product engineers and designer. And I was the first product marketing person they were getting for their piece of work. And so at the very beginning, they were kind of like, well, what are you responsible for? Like marketing, don't you just do like the cool banners outside? And like, what are you doing here with us kind of thing? And so it was not necessarily easy, but they were open to the conversation. And so we worked together and I proved them value. I would do user research, come back and telling them, okay, how about we think about this and how we think about that, and helping shape what the product could look like. And I think for me, the biggest achievement was once we launched the product, I had engineers being like, I love working with marketing, and how can we make sure we keep you for the further projects that we have? And so for me, that was such a I felt very emotional because I was like, okay, right, I won them over. Like, that's pretty cool, because usually engineers just want to do their thing. They don't necessarily want to engage, or they think marketing is not necessarily very useful and all of that. And
That's
I know
a very polite way of putting it.
that's very caricatural. Yeah. No, I know that. But and that just showed that, I helped them show a little bit more of my world, and then they showed me more of their world. And, no, Aurelie, we can't do these things because we have technical limitation. Right. Okay. So what's the middle ground here? Like, what it is that we can do? Because you understand what I need. I understand we have limitation. Let's work together so it makes sense to our users. And that's when for me kind of clicked in my head. I was like, oh, right, okay, so we can all work together. It's just about like understanding what makes sense to the users. So that kind of come back to the product market fit and making sure we do this right by the user. But it's not always easy. So I I appreciate that.
Well, this is a banner moment on Mobile Heroes Uncensored because I have never heard, and Peggy, let me know, I bet you have never heard a product person, a technology person say, I love working with marketing. I have never heard those words, not once. And Peggy is shaking her head. She hasn't either. So there's something special that you've done here, Aurelie. That's amazing. That's impressive. That's incredible. And you know what? We want to capture a little bit more that is amazing and incredible. And we'll end here. What are your top 3 tips for mobile marketers in the health and wellness space heading into, we're well into it now, but still heading into 2022?
Oh, wow. I think I'm going to sound like a broken record, but for me, it's especially when you're health and well-being or fitness, going back to the user, I think one of the big mistakes we can make is because we live and breathe our product day in, day out, because we work on it all the time, it makes sense to us and we think it's the right thing because this is what we want to see. But actually, going back and talking to our users, they might think that actually this is fine, or this is not at all what they're expecting. And they have another app for that already. So they don't really expect to be doing this within your app. And so going back to the user all the time, like making sure you speak to your user on a regular basis, whether it's focus groups or moderated testing, unmoderated testing, I think is quite key. But even sometimes talking to your friends, like I remember when I used to work at Trainline, people were like, oh my God, I use that app all the time. I was like, great, tell me what's good about it, what's not good about it, and just collect feedback, like just sense check that you're still on the right track, I think for me is key. And I think crafting these micro moments that we mentioned earlier as well, and making sure that you obviously as an app, what the impact is going to be, especially in health and fitness. I feel like you have your goal. Like for us, it's to build that confidence and being your health partner. So be there on the journey with you. On some other, it's like meditation and making sure you have a good night's sleep, or, making sure that you lose weight if it's about fitness or fasting. But then I feel like health and fitness, January, new year, new me kind of things. I come in, I have loads of good intention, but how is that going to look in February, March, April?
Mm-hmm.
And, and so it's having that in mind as well, and how you don't necessarily put too much pressure on your users. Like, oh, you haven't logged today, or you haven't fasted, or you haven't done this. And you actually, allow users to come in and out of it when they feel like it and be supportive. I think we live in a very difficult world. I mean, we've had 2 years of COVID. Now we have obviously some crises and war things going on. And I think as health and fitness app, it's a lot about well-being and, be there with our users and helping them not necessarily be harder on themselves, but if anything, kinder. Yeah. And just trying to go through things as well as possible. And so again, that comes back to empathy, which I think comes back to listening to your users. And I think that's on me too. So I don't know. That's okay, maybe?
That's totally fine. That was
We'll let you
wonderful.
go.
It was a great two. It's a wonderful two. And it's actually really interesting because you are really engaged in retention, but you're also saying, hey, it's okay to step away for a moment. It's okay to not, fast every day or whatever it's doing. Aurelie, want to thank you for this time. It's been wonderful. It's Friday night. It's late. You're in London, so it's like 8 p.m. or something. I don't know, 7 p.m. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show.
No, thank you for having me. It was great chatting with you too.
And thanks also for a great lesson we'll all take with us. All app marketers, they can lay off being so needy. They can just sit back, be supportive, let us do things in the app on our own terms. Wouldn't that be cool, John?
Love it. And thank you to all listeners. We really do appreciate you. Hope you're enjoying it. Let us know on social if you are.
And let us know if you want to come and we'll have you on the show. If you're a mobile hero or you know of someone who is, then fill out the interest form over at shorturl.at/JKSKT.
Also, Liftoff has a Slack for mobile heroes and people in the mobile ecosystem. There's a link on the screen, and if you're listening to the podcast, it's at info.liftoff.io/Slack-signup. It's pretty cool. There's smart people there, and you know what? They probably need you too.
And you have probably been completely blown away by all the insights on this show, and you want your transcript, and you can have it because the transcripts are over at Liftoff's website. Go to liftoff.io, click on Heroes, and then click on Podcast.
I actually personally love transcripts because I read way faster than people talk. So that's a great way to get insights really, really quickly. Until next time, this is John Koetsier. Thank you so much for joining.
And this is Peggy and Salz signing off for Mobile Heroes Uncensored.